And I've highlighted three here that I think are the most valuable, associated with this benchmarking process that you go through with your marketers. So the first, I would say that it allows you to avoid bad relationships, and ultimately frustration. So think about the scenario I talked about at the beginning. You have picked someone and you kind of put it on autopilot, did the set and forget method, and then 9 months in, you're like, wait a second, I've spent all this money, all this time, energy went into selecting these people. They're supposed to be doing their job, and I haven't seen a dollar back from it. So you get a lot of your time and energy invested, but you're not getting any real return. And this type of process allows you to avoid those bad relationships really to begin with, because if they can't prove whether you're starting a new relationship or you have one and you're simply trying to improve it, if they can't create or implement these type of metrics, then you're already in a bad situation. And I would argue that you have no business working with this person in the first place, because if they're good at what they do, there should be some level of analysis and performance monitoring for what they do. Because if not, they're really just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that the things that they believe work are going to work in your case. The other part of this is that it allows you to make good decisions quicker. So once you're actually into a relationship and you do have some of the benchmarking items set up, this will allow you to hit the eject button sooner than later. And so imagine, again, we go back to that scenario of, you get in and you spend a full year with a company, or, God forbid, you are working with FindLaw or another company that is going to put you into a 1-2 year, I've seen 3-year contracts, where basically you have no recourse over whether or not they're doing a good job or not. In any other relationship, and for instance, we provide monthly contracts for this exact reason, so that you have flexibility and can make these decisions quicker. So you should not expect that if you are starting a website from scratch, you're just starting your practice, that you're going to get into a SEO campaign and in month 3, you're going to be ranking for the most competitive terms in a major metropolitan area. It simply will not happen. But you can absolutely look at benchmarked results to see whether or not you're on the right track. And so I'm going to go through an example of this in just a minute to give that more, paint the picture a little bit better. But you can lock onto those things and follow along the progression, whether it's at month 3 or 6 or whatever. And from there, then you really have a good feeling about, okay, we're on track or we're off track, right? And instead of by month 9 or month 12, you can get that data within month like 3, or at month 6, you'll probably know whether or not it's like on the rails or not. The final benefit of this is empowerment in your business. So I think a big part of the frustration with working with marketing companies is that, for a lot of lawyers, it's not in their wheelhouse. They are not experts or maybe tech savvy, or, it's really hard to kind of understand like how some of this actually works, especially with search engine optimization. With ads, I think it's a little bit more straightforward for most people to understand. But with SEO, it's a little bit like black magic. And I understand why there's a lot of frustration about, kind of like what people are doing with it and how it works, and, and stuff like that. And so the good thing with benchmarking is that you don't have to worry so much about the method of how it's actually working. You can tie yourself to the results. And then, as a business owner, you don't have to put on yourself, putting the burden on yourself of like becoming an expert at SEO or advertising. And instead, you are just a expert at operating your business, right? And so whether it's the same framework that, if you have, with an employee or, I mean, employee is the best description or example. You're going to give them benchmarks, right? So you're going to develop some way to figure out if they are doing a good job beyond just kind of your gut sentiment. And so that's what you want to apply here. And I would highly recommend you work with your marketing provider to get those, and then reference, other folks, people who you trust, and other lawyers, to see if that matches up with what they're seeing as well. And with that, you'll get so much more confidence within your business that you know what's happening, the why that it's happening, and you'll be able to comfortably know whether or not you're moving in the right direction. And I think that's really one of the biggest things with this, is that it gives you that confidence, gives you that empowerment, so that you can ultimately make better decisions. But before we get into the how you benchmark and what you should actually use, I will say there's two things that you need to think about on your side. This process is absolutely a two-way street. It is certainly on the responsibility of the marketer to have all of this and provide it, and really be thinking about it and working on it, because it's their job. But on the flip side, you need to also have goals for yourself. You need to have goals for your business, and you can really just keep it pretty simple by just looking at how many new cases per month that you want. Or if it's a specific revenue goal or something like that. That really makes it, black and white in terms of the metrics and the benchmarks that you should be looking at. And so if we were to, go back and look at, kind of how that would play out for a year, we would want to have, basic benchmarks. Like by month 3, we want to have 1 new case in, or 3 or 5 or whatever the number is, through the marketing efforts. And then by month 6, we want 10. And then by month 12, we should be producing 15 or 20 or whatever that number is, right? You want to have just some level of identification of what that would be. You may change that. You may, adjust it over time, or that may be ultimately unrealistic. But by just going in and saying, well, we want as many as you can get, right? I want as many as I can get. I'm not gonna say it's a cop out for marketers or something like that, because I don't think that's not what I'm trying to say here. But it creates this situation where kind of the success is binary, and you are then coming back at 6 months, at 9 months, whatever that is, and you're basically saying, is it good or bad? And if you're not watching the video, I'm doing the thumbs up, kind of thumbs down gladiator signal, right? It's just you determining, kind of often what I've noticed by gut feeling, like, well, it was good or it was bad, right? And you don't really have any specifics that you can attribute that to. So you need to think about your goals and what you feel like is, reasonable, right? And your goals may not be reasonable with the amount of money that you're prepared to invest. It just kind of depends on your practice area, on your market, types of cases you're going after, all sorts of stuff. So, but with that said, once you bring your part to the table, then the marketing team should have the plan for how they are going to accomplish that, and in what time frame, right? And it may change or get adjusted over time, but that is what you are essentially asking for them to provide to you. So you are going to have the goals, they're going to have the how it actually gets done. So let's move on to how do you actually go about doing this in a practical sense, and how you can benchmark for your business. So I'll tell you how we do it. It's going to vary based on the company you work with, but we've essentially created a structured way to measure progress, and we do this on a monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis. The first part of what we do is set up a basically introductory questions when you're coming in, and so what we're asking for are things like how many cases are you getting currently, where do you want to grow, what types of cases, how many cases you want to grow in the next month, like what would be a big win, are certain cases better than others, all of that sort of stuff. And then kind of like what would you like at the end of a year, right? What would a great success look like? And then based on that, we essentially have our kind of status quo metric and then our goal metric. And then on a monthly basis, we are filling in that data to determine whether or not we are are we beating, are we missing out on the goal that the client has described, right? And then we do that on a quarterly and yearly basis so that we can look back at that initial goal and say, okay, you told us you wanted 2 extra cases per month, and looks like we've done that in all but, we've done that in 5 of 6 months, or something like that. And it looks like, we're trending in the right direction. The SEO is starting to work. And so the past, 2 months, you've gotten 3 and then 4 cases. And so, yes, we're kind of moving in that direction. You told us by the end of the year, you wanted to have 10 new cases per month. And we are, at 5 right now, and we're moving in the right direction, right? That's a very simple way to just go and, track every single month that you have a conversation with the marketer, and then put that down into a quarterly and yearly structure. And like I said, these things are going to change. It's more of an art than a science. The reality may be different than what both parties thought. The market may be more expensive, things like that. And so you want to, build in a little bit of flexibility, but ultimately you should be utilizing a marketing company who has experience doing exactly what you're after, whether that's improving your criminal law business, your revenue, or if it's immigration, or whatever that is. They should have credible, repeatable experience doing that, and they can give you a much more accurate benchmarking setup, or set of numbers for your benchmarking process, than somebody who's just going to say, well, we're going to do really great and we're going to get you a bunch of cases, and and kind of go from there. And so when you're getting into it, have that idea in the back of your head, but also ask your marketing company for this stuff and say, look, here's kind of my goal. What's a realistic path to get there? How long do you envision it would do that? So let's map out this next 6 months together, and you tell me what is reasonable. Then you have your kind of built-in accountability for the marketing company, because you are not coming in and saying, I want the moon. You are getting them to produce what they feel in their experience is going to be an achievable goal. And then from there, hold them accountable for it. Set calendar events. If they don't do a monthly or quarterly check-in with you, or they're not doing reporting or something like that, set your calendar up on the first day as soon as you sign that contract, right? Set up some increments that you feel comfortable with, whether that's monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, to go in and have those more detailed checkpoints, right? And you should now be armed with all of the data that you need. Put that into your calendar. Go ahead, set the calendar event up well in advance, and that way you don't have to think about it. You can basically, focus on the other parts of your business until that next meeting. So